Okay, this is the costume pieces for Ariel and the Mersisters. This is Ariel's costume that you're seeing here. The Mersisters will be out of a silver sequin. If you notice, we've got the top bodice front with the bodice front skirt right below it, and then over next to that is the back piece. You should have all of those with your packet along with the ties that are going to be attached to the top bodice. We're going to take the top bodice piece, and there will be 2 notches on both sides of the top bodice. If you'll notice, it's cut on there's a V for the neck, and on either side of the 2 notches, you're going to do 2 rows of gathering threads. Set your machine at the longest stitch possible. Starting at the 1 notch, you're going to sew a row of gathering that will go to the 2nd notch. Make sure you don't backstitch, leave long threads. You're going to do 2 rows of gathering, one at 1/4 inch, almost 3/8, and the other one at 5/8. Okay. Once you come to that 2nd notch, lift up your presser foot, jiggle it a little bit, make sure you have long threads, cut your threads. You're going to do another row of gathering right next to the first row, right above it. Make sure you don't backstitch. And with the sequins, sometimes it catches on your feed dogs, so watch for that. Jiggle it a little bit, bring out those threads, and then cut. Okay, now that we've done both gathering threads on both sides of the bodice, you're going to take your back thread, which is the opposite side that you sewed. You're going to take both back threads, and it's kind of tricky to see with the sequins, so you might need to have good lighting, but you take both of those back threads or bobbin threads, and you're going to pull them. Okay, now that I've got both of my bobbin threads, you're going to gently pull those, and because of the sequins, it's a little tricky, so you might have to go to the other 2 bobbin threads and pull those. Okay, I've gathered both sides of the bodice piece. It's just really a slight gather. You then want to bring it over to your bodice skirt front, and putting right sides to right sides, you're going to pin from each side seam up to where it comes to a V. So you want to have that V part on your bodice front. You want to either put a pin there or put your thumb there. Match that at the peak right there. You're going to put a pin there, and then you're going to come over and put a pin on your sides so those match up, and then the other side, and then go ahead and put pins in between. Alright, so we're pinning our bodice top to our bodice skirt front, and you'll notice that there's notches that are on either side of the gathering here, and there's also notches on the skirt front. So match up those notches and put a pin there too, and then just continue pinning. Now I know some of you won't need to pin as much, but you want to make sure those edges are matched up and you're not going to have any puckering. So you might need to do a little bit of stretching. I like to pin with a piece like this where you've got to come up and then pivot and come back down. Okay, now we're going to sew the top bodice front to the bodice front skirt. You're going to do a 5/8 inch seam. Oh, and before you forget, like I almost did, make sure you go down to your stitch length, regular stitch length. Wouldn't hurt to just maybe make it slightly longer between a 2.5 and a 3 length. And don't worry about back stitching. On this type of fabric, it's going to give you nothing but problems. Make sure you've got it nice and clear back here so you don't have any puckers. And you're just going to continue sewing 5/8 along your pinned area. You're going to come to the gathered part, which hits right underneath the bust, and that stitching should come right between those 2 rows of gathering stitches. Take your time. It's better than having to unpick later. Now you are going to come up to kind of a point, a V. So when you get to that point, you're going to want to stop and do a slight pivot coming down the other side, because that's what makes the shape of the bodice. We're going to stop right there, pivot, and come back down. On this garment, this costume, we're not going to worry about seam finishes, especially with these sequins. We're just going to sew and leave the seams as is. If you want to trim the seams down slightly, you can do that, but I really feel like you're going to be better off just leaving it sewn and not worry about it after that. No, I wouldn't zigzag. Definitely don't use a serger. Okay, we're going to come off, and we're not going to backstitch. We're just going to come off. Okay, so here's our sewn bodice top front to our bodice skirt. And you'll notice it might be a little bulky, or don't worry about that. Once it's on the body, it will be fine. The next step we're going to do is we're going to finish our V edges and also our armhole edges. And we want to do that just to make it so sequins don't fly off. We're not doing a lining on this particular project just to save time. So this is just going to be a simple edge finish. You'll notice on your bodice top front that there's this little slit right there that I already cut for you. That is going to be your measurement. It's about 1/2 inch. You're going to take it and you're going to fold it into the wrong side, and with pins you're going to pin that down. So go ahead and you'll just pin it down. If you feel like you can get away without pins, that's totally up to you, but you're going to turn that neck edge in 1/2 inch to the wrong side of your top. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, we're going to set up our presser foot, so the outside edge of our presser foot is going to come right along the outside edge of our V. All right, go ahead and continue sewing. You might need to grab your material a little bit towards the back. Watch out for those sequins. A needle could break if you're going too fast. Take your time and just let it flow through. Edge of presser foot right on the edge of the V. Kind of, because of the sequins again, kind of help pull the fabric through. This is kind of tricky fabric to work with, but it's going to look great when you're done. Okay, we're getting close to the V in the neck. You're going to come all the way down. There might not be any fabric right there, but you want to come down, pivot, and get ready to come up the other side. Okay, now we're ready to turn the edges on the armholes in. We're going to do the same thing we did on the V neck. We're just going to turn that 1/2 inch. If you need to use a seam gauge, sometimes I just use my thumb, the width of my thumb. It's really pretty forgiving what we're doing here. So you're going to go ahead and pin, and here at the curve, sometimes I'll clip a little bit, but I think with this material being a knit, you can stretch it. You just don't want there to be any puckers there when you're all done. And you're going to just go ahead and pin all the way down to the end. Remember, you're going to do both armholes. Okay, here we are at the armhole. We've turned it 1/2 inch, and we're going to proceed to sew. Again, remember, don't worry about back stitching. That will get caught in the side seam. And take your time. These sequins can be kind of a pain sometimes, but that's what the sacrifice is for the look. And you're going to go ahead and just sew all around that armhole. Make sure you stretch a little bit as it curves. Even if the where you turned it slips a little bit, that's okay. Not a biggie. Just make sure you catch the fabric and it's sewn to the wrong, turned in and sewn down so that edge is finished. You're going to go ahead and do the first armhole, and then you will go to the second armhole. Now you're going to take your two pieces, they're called handles or ties, and we just kind of got creative here and cut this out on the selvage of Ariel's purple sequin material. This sequins might come off. We're not going to finish this because it's going to be behind the neck and will be less bulky. So we're just going to keep the edges raw. For Ariel's, you know, if she wants to take the sequins off, she can, but for the other costumes, the white costumes, you'll just have a piece of white swimsuit material. Just leave it. Don't worry about finishing any edges, but you're going to take each of these and you're just going to fold it down at the bottom. You'll notice there's a pointy top. That's the top of your tie. This is where you're going to attach to the shoulder here. We're just going to take it and give it a pleat or a little fold right here at the bottom. And then we're just going to, and this is not a specific science because I'm kind of adjusting this pattern a little bit, but we're just going to take it and match it up right sides together to our shoulder seam. We're going to go ahead and pin that just like that, and we'll end up stitching a 5/8 right across there. That's going to give us our tie that's going to come around the neck. You're going to want to do the same thing on the other side. Make sure your right sides are showing. That's my wrong side. I'm going to do a little pleat there. Make sure it fits. Maybe refold it just to make sure it fits exactly. If you want to be more exact, you can, but that really is going to do the job. Gives you a little bit of softness there. Once we sew that on 5/8, that's going to be her tie. The white tunics will be the same, but with white swimsuit material. So we're going to go ahead and sew a 5/8 inch seam right across the shoulder where the tie is attached. Put your presser foot down, your needle. Now in this one, we're going to do a double stitch because we want it really secure. So I'm going to go ahead and do a nice stitch across at 5/8. You want to make sure they match right up the edge. I'll show you what it looks like. So it matches right there. Okay, now we're going to come back and we're going to do another row of stitching right above the stitching that you just did. I'm not wanting to back stitch just because of the type of fabric this is. If you want to try, go ahead. But I'm just going to do a double row of stitching all the way across. And that should give it extra strength there. So when they're moving around. After that, if you want to, just trim it down right there so you don't have extra material there. And just trim all your little threads. Make sure as you sew you're trimming all your threads, which I'm sure most of you do. And go ahead and proceed to do the other strap. Okay, so this is our back piece. It's just a back skirt piece. If you look at the pattern, it's going to look like that with a little elastic that draws it in so it fits nice and snug on the base of the back. So the first thing that you want to do, you'll notice that I've pinned right sides together on your bodice skirt back. And you're going to want to do a 5/8 inch seam, so there's a center seam. So we're going to go to the machine and go ahead and do a 5/8 inch seam. Remember, there is a top to this skirt back and a bottom. The top will have a notch cut out. That will indicate that that's the top of the bodice back. Now we'll go to the machine.